What will your legacy be?
The regular season is in the books. It is playoff time in the legacy leagues. There's no better time on the planet. It's the Low Post Podcast. I'm Dan Ruggiero, and with me, as always, is
PJ Thomas. Glad to be back after finishing the season undefeated. Ready to get started on the playoffs today, Danny.
Yeah, and we're going to get right into it. I wanted to start with the closest margin of the week, but I think it's best that we get this other game out of the way first. At 8 p.m., there was a lot of emotions in the air on court one. A lot of old faces, a lot of new faces this season, at least, given that I was able to step on the court. And it was an outcome that I don't think any of us expected.
No.
The Duyes boys come out and beat the Werewolves 87-77 after starting their bench squad of PJ Thomas, Nate Kirschenbaum, Kyle Wolf, and yours truly. But then after a while, I had said it in our tweet, the scrub lineup had opened the door, and then the death lineup comes in and shuts it as quickly as it was open. So, Pete, I want your insight on this beautiful game, and then I'll give some of my own as well.
Well, I was going to say, I usually am the one giving the insight on the Duyes boys because I'm living it, but you got to live it this week, Danny. We were glad to have you back. You contributed with 8 points of your own, just like old times, screaming and hollering while you were out there. So why don't you give the people what they want to hear and give your rundown of what it felt like to be back on the court with your old buddies, the Duyes boys.
Yeah, I think it was absolutely fantastic. I mean, let me go down to the Duyes boys box score here. Very well-balanced scoring approach. I mean, you got Brian, myself, and Nate all contributing with 8. Actually, PJ, you're the only guy on the team that didn't contribute in the points column. So
but I had a rebound, and
yeah, you did have that one rebound. You know what I'm most shocked about looking at this is that I had 5 assists.
Yeah, Danny, you were dropping some dimes.
I led the team in assists, and I did not realize that.
Yeah, Danny, you're more of a contributor than you realize. So
yeah,
we're glad to have you back. I mean, hey, you shot 40% from 3 on the night.
I mean, but I'll tell you, every shot that I took, every single 3, I don't know what it was, just something on the hands. I hit those first 2 in the first quarter, and then I missed the next 3. But when I tell you every single 3 that I took just felt so good, and I thought they were all going to go in. Like, I had some nights last year where it was like 2 for 6, 2 for 7 from 3, and it'd come off my hand. And I'd be like, that's the most disgusting shot on the planet. But I would, every time I released that ball the other night, I was like, this one's going in.
It reminded me of when Paul Pierce was on the Wizards for a little bit, and he came back to the Garden came back to the TD Garden for his last game there. He balled out. That's what it felt like. There was something special. There was something special in the air, something special in the fingertips. Every ball seemed to find you. So we were getting you some looks, but honestly, it was a nice change of pace for us. We never really let the bench guys go crazy like that and play 20 minutes. So it was nice to get out there and get some exercise for once. But, we had some fun. We were up 8-0 to start the game, and I was like, what the hell is going on? So the bench mafia's got it going for the Duyes boys. You don't get to see us too much, but we're there. So no, continue with your analysis though, Danny. I want to hear it.
I was going to say, for the Werewolves, I mean, the last couple weeks, it hasn't been Brian leading the way for them. I mean, last week it was Sam Clifford. I think he put up 30, and Brian had a really down game last week. This week, Brian still has relatively a down game, but it was still Sam Clifford showing up, doing what he does. I really liked the battle between Sam Clifford and Zach Tartaglia. I thought they had a really good back and forth going the whole game.
They did, with Sam Clifford telling Zach he was too small, and then Zach, putting his ankles on Sam's neck at the same time. So, I mean,
Zach was 1 block away from the league record.
How many blocks do you have?
Zach had 6 blocks, and the league record is 7, set by other Duyes boy coach Shane Patrick.
Shane has the record for blocks?
He does
indeed. Is that like a retro, like rookie card Shane game, like back in the day?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. Okay.
And then the other thing of note for the Werewolves is that Gino needed 11 points to get to 1,000, and he got 26. He led the way. He was kind of like, his whole move was, driving right, throwing something up like a floater at the free throw line, banking it off the glass. He never called glass once, but it's okay. He got his 1,000th career point.
And, shout out to Coach Shane Patrovic, as we like to call him, instead of Coach Pop. It's Coach Pat. So, going out there, really, really pulling the old Coach Pop move and, hyping the boys up, doing his thing. Love the not guilty shirt he wore this week. It's a great memento to everything that's transpired, but we'll leave it at that. No, it was a good game. We honestly told the Werewolves we were going to give them a win. So kind of surprised ourselves that we won the game, because I don't really think we thought too much about it. We weren't really going crazy trying to win the game, starting our starters. But, Johnny said it to me during the game. He was like, this is more fun. We get to have some rested legs. And I think it showed. Johnny dropped 30 easy. Like, he had like an easy 30 points. And it was the first time all season he's really been able to have fresh legs. He usually doesn't come out of the game. So, I think that's a nice change of pace for him. And, if the bench mafia can supply, the Duyes boys can succeed. So we finish up the season 8-0, unsuspected from the interns. They want to bet against us every week. They continue to bet against us, but it happens, and we'll continue to prove people wrong. We've done that. No one believed in us when we were the 9 seed and we said we were going to win the championship except for us, and we did it. So keep down the Duyes boys, and you'll find yourself to be a broke man relatively soon if you keep betting against us. But I think that's probably enough for that game. We know who the top dogs in this league are, and we can get going on the next one.
Yeah, I'm going to say you were saying you're kind of surprised we pulled that win out. And I think part of it was because the scoreboard was broken. So they had to bring in the other little scoreboard that they kept on the scorers table. So we weren't as able to know like where we are. I didn't know we were leading that game until like the beginning of the fourth quarter.
Right.
So moving on to another game where it was kind of hard to figure out what the score was. And speaking of Shane's not guilty shirt, the Bogy Kicks had their, I believe, third or fourth straight close game in as many weeks. I mean, it seems like they've been going, kind of putting the pieces together. They've been playing some of the better teams in the league close. And this one was like, we showed up to this game, the 7:00 game, and the entire time we're like, what the hell is the score? Like, what's going on here? I have no idea what's going on because nothing was put up. And then they finally wheel out the little manual scoreboard and we're like, Bogy's leading this game. And I mean, it's the start of the fourth quarter and they got a pretty sizable lead for the Bogy Kicks.
Double digit, I believe.
Yeah, it was double digit at one point. But then they do what they do best. They collapse. The Ozone boys, powered by Zach Brooks's 2003 floor-length jean shorts.
Bone Collector, Allen Iverson.
Yeah,
John
it's very
Cena
like
type
N1
vibes.
mixtape tour. I mean, there were a couple of times he hit shots and he would do the "You Can't See Me," the John Cena. But a big fourth quarter for the Ozone boys, and they pull out the closest margin of victory of the night at 68-64. They finished the season at 4-4, but because of tiebreakers, it wasn't enough to get them out of the play-in games. And this is actually going to be a rematch game next week in the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah, the 03 gents are hot. By the way, I know we've talked about this before. Whoever invented the Ozone Boys logo is incredibly genius, right?
Yeah, because the chemical formula for ozone is O3.
I love it. I love
O3.
But no, I think Ozone's hot at the right time. Took a little bit to get going, but John Cena himself with 18 points on the night. We rolled up and we're like, what the hell is he wearing? And then he started balling out, and Shane was loving it. He kept calling him John Cena, and it was great. A
lot of nicknames on the night from Shane.
Yeah, Lizzie McGuire and Hannah Montana for the Hogan brothers. I don't know her first name, but Shane keeps calling Paul McGuire his sister's name. He said Paul's sister is absolutely disgusting at basketball, and I don't think that's a knock when he calls him that. He just says his sister's better than him. He just likes to joke around, but word on the street is she's disgusting at basketball. So that's Paul gets the only real compliment from Shane. But David DePina. Jesus Christ, I'm gonna screw those up the rest of the way. David DePina, 28 leading the way, 12 rebounds. Then you have Chase Banks, who's not usually there for them. We didn't see him. Pretty good baller, actually. I think he's the best player on the team when he's there.
He's another guy. Like, remember when we were recapping the Duyes boys Bogy Kicks game, and I was talking about Mike Evans' 3-point shooting, and I was like, he only finished 5 for 15, but it felt like everything was going in. I mean, Chase Banks is another example of that. It was like 3 for 9, but I felt like every time he pulled up, it was going in.
Yeah, dude. I mean, he was pulling from like 10 feet behind the arc too, and his hit. I think the 3 threes he hit were from pretty deep. Mike Evans disappeared this game.
Yeah, I don't know what was different. I don't know if it was just that they had that second option scorer there, but he just did not shoot the ball.
No, and I like the way that Mike actually runs the offense for them too. You know, I think he's actually probably one of their best decision makers. There's a couple other guys in the team who are pretty poor decision makers, as you know. You know, they make some questionable decisions. However, you know, Mike Evans, I like his decision making, and I think he does a good job. You know, they call him the truth when he's out there. So, and no, I like Mike Evans. I think he's good. I think it was probably lack of touches for him. Getting Chase Banks the ball. Chase has only been there for a few games. I don't really see his name too much in the box score. He's a big dude though, like big body. And
yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, he's not being able
to see the games in person for most of the year. Like, you only get to see it through the lens of the live streams that the Duyes boys do or the Snapchats that the league does. And when you get there, there's some people that like just look more menacing in person. I don't know what it is. Like, Mike Evans looked way bigger than he does on, and I mean, he literally looked like, what's his name from Moana?
Maui.
Yeah, Maui. But he was huge in person. Same thing with Chase Banks.
Banks. Shane and I said, like, in a not insulting way, that it looks exactly like Colin Sexton.
Oh yeah, that's a fairly good
he's like a guard, and I think it's his hairdo because it's the Colin Sexton haircut. He reminds me so much of Randy Butler when he's out there, just like the build. Like, he's not a humongous like 6'4" guy, but he's like a big guard, freak athlete. Like, I really like him as a player. Pretty quiet when he was out there, but just letting his ball do the talk, which is not something that's too common of a trend for the Bogy Kicks. So I kind of like that. But you know, no, I think that they're gonna have a tough matchup. But let me tell you something. I don't think Chase Banks is there. I don't think Chase Banks was there when they played some other tougher teams. So to keep it close with Ozone with him, I think this has a shot to be a really good game coming up.
Yeah, it's definitely,
because we're gonna get a rematch first round.
Yeah, there. I think the first game are actually no, both of the playing games start at 7 p.m. So I don't know what I'm talking about, but I'm really interested to see how this is going to go, because Ozone, I mean, both teams have to play with the mindset that if they win, they're playing again that same night, and they're playing lob. So do you think it's going to be a case of Ozone is going to try to take it lighter and just do what they need to do to pull it out, or are they just going to try to go full throttle and then see what happens against lob? It's going to be a very intriguing matchup.
The thing is, though, with this matchup, right, is you have to win this first game to even get a chance to play lob. And the fact, if you're Ozone, that the game was this close, you can't take it lightly. Because Bogy has no reason to take it lightly. They haven't won a game, so they're going to give it everything they've got, because if they win a playing game and get to face lob, they're not expecting to beat lob, right? For them, it would be their first win on the season, which would be the playoffs, which would be crazy, but they have nothing to lose. Ozone feels like they're a better team where they shouldn't be in this position, but you got to win this game now to get a chance to play lob, who you've beaten, who you know you can beat, but you don't get there if you don't win this game. And it was the fact that you were down double digits in the fourth quarter and were able to come back. I mean, Ozone's better than that. It's just a matter of, like, I think they have to gas themselves for this first game. They got to win. They have to win this game.
Yeah. And you were saying the winner of that game has to go on and face lob after only an hour of rest. So let's move on to that. Lob locked up the 2 seed because of tiebreakers, because of their win in the City Bowl, which, as we were mentioning, I will say we did get confirmation from a certain big man on Sin City. We do know how to pronounce his name. He told PJ and I very, very generously that it is pronounced as Devin, but everybody just calls him Dev. Dev was not there.
Dev was not there.
He was not there. I believe he was in Florida.
He actually is a pretty cool dude from his DMs. He was like actually really chill and
oh yeah.
Like, yeah, no. So I like Dev, cool guy. Devin Pina. No more Devin Devon. I know they call him
exactly
the whole time.
Joey was hopping on the Devin Devon Pina train on the post-game show. But now we have the clarification. It is Devin Pina.
Yeah, no, Devin is their key. I know that they lost that game without Devin. What sucks is I was talking to Taj a little bit, and Taj is a wicked cool dude. Go hit up Taj if you want to get ripped, because he's a personal trainer, and some of the guys he trains are like ridiculous athletes. He's gonna get Shane ready to go for next season. He's gonna turn Shane into an absolute monster. But no, I think they got a lot of key pieces. But I was talking to Taj, and he did let me know that Javon. So Joey was alluding to it in the podcast, is that this was his last game. If you didn't know, which I didn't know based on how he was playing, he's having like a full reconstruction of his knee. He has like a blown out knee. So the fact that he's been this dominant with one knee is ridiculous, because he was a problem for us. So Javon, I know our game was like a bunch of shit talking. It was crazy, but we do really wish you the best for your knee surgery. Obviously hoping you come back healthy, and anything we can do to support you, we'll do it. So, we'll all be thinking about you in the legacy leagues and hoping you make a quick recovery. But pretty impressive what you've done so far on one knee. So, I think Sin City, they're going to try to pull out some wins for Javon, but if they get Devin back and Taj is rolling, I think Taj is a great guard. I think he's one of the better, like, true point guards in the league. Right. He does it on both ends. He's really like I would compare him to like a Marcus Smart kind of guy. Like, he's really able to score the ball, and he's really able to play defense as well. He's a lockdown defender. He's just an absolute muscle head. He's a beast down there. He's built like a running back. I don't know if he played football, but he's just like that's what he is. He's a running back. He's a dog. He just barrels through the defense and gets to the hoop. So with Taj and Dev, I think they're gonna be fine. It's just a matter of if Terrence is gonna show up to the games on time. We love Terrence.
I was gonna say, because they started this game with only 3 people,
and our boy wasn't there. Our boy wasn't there.
Jerry wasn't there. Garen wasn't there. Garen's been providing valuable minutes for them off the bench.
We love Garen.
We do. But I think the big thing with them, because they have a tough draw in the first round too, because they broke the tie with Ozone for the 4-4 teams based off of the better BPI, which factors in offensive defensive efficiency. But their first round draw is the Warriors, and the last
who
time
they went to overtime with.
They did go to overtime with them, and I will say that I think Taj had a big part in this. It was one of Gian's lesser performances of the year. I think he only had 18 points, and it took Charles Correa going nuclear, if you remember that week when we talked about that.
Yeah, Charles came game ready that day.
He did. And then let's look up to Lob City, because I don't want to shy away from that. It was Colin again leading the way, Cody hitting multiple threes again, Vic showing up, which is big, because another thing that Joey touched on, no Jose still. So it looks like the rumor mill that he's not returning is proven to be true. But
here's what makes me nervous. Right? What name stands out to you on this list? I don't know how much you know about Rhode Island basketball now that you're a Philly guy, but what name stands out to you on this list?
I don't know where you're alluding.
Carl Lee.
Yeah, what about Carl Lee?
Carl Lee can do what Zach Tartaglia does on 8-foot rims, on 10-foot rims. I don't quite know why he's in this league. I also
started off where he was like showing up as an extra body for Lob, and he would like play the first quarter as a warm-up for his other men's league games. Then he would leave. But I mean, it looks like he stayed for most of the game this week.
Carl Lee is a very good basketball player.
Yeah.
That's what I heard from Shane, from his friend Benji, I believe. They were like, dude, why is Carl Lee here? Like, he's disgusting. So get Carl the ball. Let's see if he wants to play, I'm curious to see if he starts really going at. The thing with Lob is I really don't know what their roster is going to be every week. Nuri's there this week. He's not there next week. Vic is here. Then he's not there. And it's just Cody and Greg, or it's just, then Carl Lee stands under the hoop for 4 minutes and leaves. It's like,
then he leaves after the second quarter.
So I don't really know what you're ever going to get from Lob. Hey, if no one shows up to this game, good luck. You're not beating Ozone again if you don't have a roster, but you're picked 50-50 to win the championship from the interns. So, we'll see how that goes. But no, Lob's a good team when their guys are there. It's just like they're the ones with like the most bizarre attendance issues like I've ever seen. And they can do that because every guy in their team is a stud. Like every guy in their team would be the best player on bogey kicks, or they would easily be the best player on the Lincoln 18ers, right? Or even only the fam, they'd be one of the big rotational pieces. But so they can do that. It's just it's just kind of bizarre with the rotational issues that they have.
All right, we had some technical difficulties cutting off at the end of the City Bowl. So there's 2 games left to cover from week 8. I want to leave this one specific one for the end. So we're going to talk about the halfway Crooks. They almost double up the Lincoln 18ers. It's a final score of 102-55.
Yeah. I don't know what the hell happened with the Lincoln 18ers this game, but I'm assuming just kind of a wash. Jeff Winchell's a big body. Jared Hansen shot the ball really well. Spence Freeman hit a 3, Danny. Look at this. Joey Zacco hitting 3 threes. That's when it's kind of a wrap.
The thing with Spence Freeman, which he came up to me after our game and we introduced ourselves to each other. We had a great time. I told him that, I told him, like, I mean nothing mean by making fun of his shooting abilities. It's all in good fun. And then I told him, I was like, look, I had 2 threes in our game, so I'm expecting 2 threes out of you. He didn't give me 2 threes, but he at least gave me, if he was going to hit 1, I'm glad he didn't go 1 for 8. I'm glad he went 1 for 3.
Yeah. No, and Joey Zacco 3 for 7, 42 points. Get Joey the ball, man. Get Joey the ball.
Joey has been the hot hand lately. It seems like everything that he touches turns to gold sometimes.
Yeah. So give me a little bit of a scroll.
So we'll go to the 18ers.
Chris Adams, honestly don't know who that is.
He's another one of those guys that shows up like every so often. He's been there for maybe like 3 or 4 games, I think. But when he shows up, he plays pretty well for them. Same thing with Stephen Ritchie.
You got the Clout Man, only 6 points, though, 0 for 5 from 3. The Clout Man is a tale of 2 faces. I'll tell you that.
The Clout Man is hot and the Clout Man is cold. And their shooting ability determines how they're going to perform in a game. If they're hitting, they can probably hang with a lot of those mid-level teams. But if they're cold, like they were the other night, it's a rough game for them.
26.2% from 3. Yeah, it's not going to cut it, really. Yeah, just a tough game all around for the 18ers. I don't think there's really much to say here. They had a tough game. The halfway Crooks were hitting shots, scoring the ball. Jeff Winchell was doing his thing in the paint. Chris Adams had 2 blocks, but really not enough defensively to do much. So I don't know. Tough one there. They just got to kind of forget about it. I don't think that this game mattered for them anyways. I think they were still stuck in this what is it? The 9 seed. The 9 seed. They're stuck in the 9 seed anyways. So I think they were just probably going to have some fun, but they got to get ready for a big game on Tuesday, potentially 2. So we'll kind of see how that shakes out.
And we're going to go from the 18ers to the team that the 18ers will be facing next week in the first round of the playoffs. I got to say this. We had been talking last week, and I had mentioned that through 7 weeks, aside from the Warriors' first 2 games in week 1 and week 2, only the fam had allowed the league high in points every week. Not only did they do that again this week, letting up, I believe it was 134. It was 134 points, and the entire game was played 4-on-3.
In favor of only the fam.
In favor of only the fam. Not only was it 4-on-3, and you lost by 30, you had a man drop 90 points on you.
Not a man. Not a man.
A god among men. Gian Avedissian drops 90 points in a game where realistically there should always be a double team.
Yeah, and who are you going to double on?
And when you go on offense, there should always be someone open.
Yeah.
It's like, I was talking with Joey about this because I put on Instagram that, like, we voted for John for player of the week. And I was like, look, we want John to win player of the week as much as the next guy. But it's disrespect. I get that you have the thing of you can't win 2 weeks in a row. And I was like, it is disrespectful to not nominate him for the award. And Joey was like, well, yeah, but it wasn't real basketball. It was a game that didn't mean anything. It was just like breakaways and dunks and like cherry picking. I'm like, look, at the end of the day, 90 is 90. And it's a game where you put up 90 in a 3-on-4 game, and it helps you clinch the 3 seed for the playoffs.
Yeah, 90's 90, dude. I don't care what it is. I'm telling you right now, if I was in the same situation as Gian, I'm not scoring 90.
Oh, hell no. Like we had said, but coming into the week that we told the Werewolves, we're like, hey, let Dan break the scoring record for the league. And, once I found out, we showed up and they were like, yeah, Gian had 50 at half. And we go over there and they start talking to us. We start talking to the interns. And I'm like, how many does he have? And the interns like, show me the iPad. They're like, he doesn't want to know. So I'm not saying it out loud. You can come look at the screen. And I take a look and it was 4 minutes to play maybe. And he had 80. And I was like, are you kidding me? And look at this, not even to be like outdone. Look at Henry. 33 points, 16 for 19 from the field. That's efficient. He had a triple double. Why didn't Henry get nominated for player of the week either?
Yeah. Well, I guess it wasn't real basketball, but dude, I don't know what the hell Only the Fam is doing. I don't know what kind of basketball they watch. If they're going to play defense like this and they sneak out a win against the Lincoln 18ers, I'm going to tell you right now, Johnny Coutu, Vinny Volpe, Zach Tartaglia, and Brian Yars will have the most fun they've ever had all season. If you guys want to come and not play defense against us, we'll take it. We'll take that in the first round.
I wonder what's going on in their head as a basketball team.
Not much.
Because it's like granted, you like, I think Aiden touched on this in the post-game show. They were missing Tucker. He's a pretty good defensive piece for them. I mean, a 3-legged dog would be a good defensive piece for them at this point. Like, what are we doing?
I really don't know. If they've beaten the Lincoln 18ers, which is what is flabbergasting to me, but if they do again beat the Lincoln 18ers as we know they're capable of doing, good luck to them not playing defense in their second game of the night, because I'll tell you right now, that's not going to be a pretty outcome. I would like to make a quick point, however, about Gian. Gian, wanted to make sure we gave him his flowers this week. Absolutely, Gian. You're one of a kind dude. You're a good dude. We're going to give you your shout out. I find it fascinating that the 3 people that I view in the league as 3 of the probably top 5 players in the league, being Johnny Coutu, Vinny Volpe, and Gian Avedissian, none of them played varsity high school basketball.
Yeah, that is probably the most baffling stat that I know.
Vinny and Johnny not making the varsity team at Hendricken. And then you have Gian not making the varsity team at Coventry. And you just wonder, right? I mean, there's some guys that they go up against in the legacy leagues who are very good basketball players. Some played in college. Brian Yars was like the leading scorer all time at Cranston West. Played at CCRI for an excellent team with a bunch of guys that played overseas, right? And there's a bunch of guys in the legacy leagues who played like very high level basketball.
I'm pretty sure Charles Correa played in like Puerto Rico or something.
So but you wonder, right? Like, who made these high school basketball teams over these guys?
Yeah. And
you just question, right? But no, Gian plays with a chip on his shoulder, probably for the same reason Johnny and Vinny do. We've had that discussion with them, and dude, credit where credit's due, bro, because you're an absolute friggin' hooper. So, yeah, I hope you like the color red, because we're gonna make a push for you. But
I mean, hey, Coventry looked good, and they didn't want him wearing their red. we'd love to have you wear our red.
Absolutely. Anytime you want to throw on the DB jersey, you just let us know, and we can get you suited up. But no, I mean, I think the Warriors are gonna, dude, we've said it. We the first like 3 weeks of the season, we're like, yeah, they just can't rely on Gian. That's out the window. That's out the window.
I think one thing that I was interested in was last week I looked at the records for scoring, because Gian had a week of 40 something points, and then a week of like 20, and then 2 weeks of 50-point games. So I was like, what's the all-time scoring record like in a season? I was like, is that feasible? And last week I looked and I was like,
oh, that's right. I forgot we had this conversation.
Yeah. And I was like, I looked and I was like, no, it's not feasible. Like they would have to win the finals and he would have to average like 40 points the rest of the way.
Yeah.
For it to be something even remotely possible. It's on the table here now. I think if he keeps playing to this level, and like, even if they lose in the semis, he could do it. Because
how many points off is he? Well, I think last time we talked, he was like, it was triple digits. He was off, right?
Yeah, the scoring record for total points was 384, I believe, in 10 games. I think he just did
a third, almost a fourth of that, really.
Yeah, so now he's up to 344 points.
So he needs 40-something points to do it.
Yeah, and if he can score 40 points even in the next game, or if they win their first game in the first round in the quarterfinals, and they go to the semis, and he scores like 20 something both times, he breaks the single season scoring record.
Yeah, which is ridiculous. So no, shouts to Gian, all the love, bro. I followed you back on Instagram like you requested. I know you have a very serious Instagram following.
I gave him a follow too, and I needed to make sure that he saw, because I didn't want to.
Absolutely. So yeah, keep that in the back of your head. Start wearing the color red around your house, see how you like it, and get back to us. So all right, let's get going on the next game.
Well, I was going to say that's going to do it for our week 8 recaps. Before we get on to the playoff previews, we got a quick little ad read for you. This week's Low Post podcast is brought to you by Legacy Sports Media. Do you play in a league that could use full box scores, player pages with career stats, post-game interviews, a great podcast like this, and a lot more? Tell your league commissioner and contact us today so we can enhance your basketball league and help you continue to build your legacy.
You are a fucking sellout. I'm going to swear for the first time on this podcast.
Look, I'm just doing what the boss man tells me to do.
Company man's coming and knocking on your door, Danny. You're answering
what
the door.
I'm going to do right now is I'm going to pull up the picture of the bracket from Twitter.
We need to get the picture of Vinny back up there. I don't know why that ever was gone. Vinny needs to be that. Well, I think it was like dunking on Jose. Oh no, it was the dunk. It was the Zach Tartaglia block to the Vinny Volpe dunk. That needs to be the background of it again. I don't know why we ever got away from that.
So let's pull up this bracket right here. This is what we're looking at.
Damn, look at Johnny.
Look at that. They got a beautiful shot in there. But 7 o'clock, we've got our 8-9, Only the Fam, the 18ers, and our 7-10, the Ozone boys and the Bogy Kicks. They get an hour off, and then they'll end up facing the Duyes boys and Lob City at 9 o'clock. And our 8 o'clock games are going to be Werewolves and Halfway Crooks and the Warriors and Sin City. So which of the play-in games do you want to start with?
Ours.
Okay, yeah.
Our potential
so
matchup.
Let's start with that. It's Only the Fam and the 18ers. I think we touched on it a little bit here. These teams were matched. Actually, fun fact, there are no matchups right now in this first round of teams that have not faced each other. So everybody in this pool of games that are already set has faced each other at least once.
Crazy.
So Only the Fam in their matchup against the 18ers, I think that was week 2 for them.
Honestly,
their second win.
The only matchup that'll happen, or the only matchup that could potentially happen that hasn't been a game, would be Only the Fam and Duyes boys, because Lob City has played both the Ozone boys and Bogy Kicks. So potentially that's the only new matchup we're going to get in the week 1 of the playoffs.
I was going to say maybe even in the playoffs in general, because Lob City didn't play the 18ers, and the only way they could meet is if they both went to the finals.
Right.
The Warriors didn't play the Werewolves, and that could only happen in the finals, which is plausible.
Right.
Sin City, who did Sin City not play? They didn't play.
I don't know. Did they play Bogy?
No, Sin City played Bogy. They beat them by like 30 or something like that. I think it was I think it's only the fam. I don't think they played only the fam.
No, they did.
They did? Okay,
I saw Jerry playing against them.
That's interesting. I don't remember who they didn't play. Oh, the Ozone boys. They didn't play the Ozone boys.
Oh, so that matchup could potentially happen.
Yeah. All right, but let's talk about only the fam, the 18ers. They have played once before. Only the fam got a win. I'm blanking on the final score, but this is something that we had talked before, and it's can they play defense, and what's it going to be for them in the rematch?
I really don't even know how to analyze this upcoming game. I really don't. If we're going to be honest here. Only the fam has Jaron. He's probably the best player on the court in this matchup. And in the playoffs, having the best player on the court at a given time is a humongous advantage, right? I just don't know if they seem like they don't give a shit when they play. So it's like Lincoln, if they're hot, if they're on a bad night, they're not winning. Like if Lincoln can't score, they're not winning the game. I don't care what the hell they do. But if they have a good night and only the fam just usually does what they usually do and don't play defense, then they're not going to win. If only the fam wins, I don't see them getting by us. I don't know if anyone does, but I mean, anything can happen, sure, but this would be an odd time for them to start playing defense if they haven't done it all year. So,
what I was saying was, I wonder if only the fam's just not playing defense in these games and giving up so many points because they know that they're outmatched. So they're like, what's the point? And it makes me wonder if they're going to come into this matchup with the 18ers, a team that they've already beaten, and be like, oh, we know we can beat them, so let's actually play defense against them and try to beat them that way. But I agree with your point that they do have the best player on the floor, and that usually is a benefit to have in the playoffs. But we've seen games where, like Duyer's boys versus Boom in summer 19, Boom had the best player on the floor, and Jose, they didn't win.
Arguable. That's an arguable point.
I mean, historically,
he was the MVP.
Yeah, he was the MVP. So
Vinny has that dog in him where he likes to kill the MVP.
He does. But if I'm going to set a line here, I'm going to favor the 18ers here because it's one of those 8-9 games. And if we go by March Madness rules, it's not technically an upset. If the 9 beats the 8, it's really more of an upset when it's a team 2 seeds below that wins.
Like the 7-10.
Yeah, exactly.
7-9.
So I'm going to favor the 18ers here because I think they can do it. I'm going to favor them by 2.5.
I'm going to favor the 18ers as well. I think what we should do for Joey, and we'll post it, we got to get access to the Low Post Pod Twitter because you and I would absolutely crush that. But I think we'll fill out the bracket as if we're doing March Madness, and we'll post it and say this is the pick for the Low Post Pod.
Oh yeah, that'd be good.
That'd be really cool. So we can do that. If you can send me this graphic, I'll make the edit. But I mean, yeah, I go Lincoln 18ers, but I think you keep it a small margin. I like the 2.5. I'm fine with setting that line. No point to setting the line for the Duyer's boys or Lob City this week because we just don't know what the hell product we're gonna get. You're gonna whatever team you're gonna get an exhausted version of that team, and you don't even know who you're playing. So I think we only really set 4 lines this week, and we call it there. But I like that line for sure.
All right, and then moving on to the rematch of Week 8, the 7-10, the Ozone boys and the Bogy Kicks. The Ozone boys came from a very dark place the first weeks of the season. They started off 0-3. They ended up grinding to finish 4-4, but it's not enough because of tiebreakers. They still have to play this first game, and it's a rematch of the game from last week. And even still, I think they win. I think it was funny because I think one person on the post-game show favored the Bogy kicks, and everyone else, they were like, oh, what's your pick? And without hesitation, everyone was like, Ozone, 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 Ozone.
I think it sucks for Lob that Ozone had a bad first half of the year. Because let me tell you something. Out of the seeds 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, or even if you want to go, yeah, that's the bottom 5 seeds, right? 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Yeah.
Ozone's the best team in that group. And they're the 7. And
if they win this game, they have to play Lob, who they've already beat this year. And I know the last time Ozone played Lob, it was also a doubleheader, but that was the first game of the doubleheader. So if you're gassed trying to beat Bogy, or after you beat Bogy, if they win this game, let's say, then you got to play Lob on like tanks half full.
Which they can do it. And it all depends on Lob's attendance issues, right? That could play a humongous factor in game 1.
Yeah, you got to wonder who's going to show up.
I mean, like, realistically,
will you get
right?
Carly? Will you get Vic? Will you? Who are you going to get?
Will you get Jose? You never know. But let me be honest with you. Ozone, this is why it sucks for the bottom half of the bracket. The bottom half of the bracket are all teams that, like, Sin City had a chance to be, I think, like, as high as the 4 or 5, right?
Yeah, if they beat Lob, then
the Warriors could have been the 2. Lob could have fallen to the 5.
I think they could have been as high as the 4 because they beat the Werewolves, so they would have had the tiebreaker over them as the other 5 and 3 team.
So, I mean, yeah, the top half of the bracket is very good as well, but the bottom half of the bracket is all teams who could have been top 4 seeds, except for Bogy. In the Ozone Boys and Sin City, those are 2 tough lower seeds. I mean, you're 1, 4, and 5. You're expecting those teams to be good with Duyer's, Werewolves, and halfway Crooks. But I mean, 7, 2, 7, 3, and 6 are all excellent teams. That is a tough side of the bracket. And Ozone, honestly, we're gonna pick stuff later. Like we can verbally pick our bracket and then we'll post it. I think that'd be a cool end to the pod. But a sleeper team for me, really. I think we should each pick a sleeper team. My sleeper team is the Ozone Boys. I think you could see the Ozone Boys in the semifinals.
Yeah, and if I have to set the line for their game against the Bogy Kicks, we already have the body of work. It was what, a 4-point win?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to keep it at that. I'm going to give it 4.5 because I think they're better than beating Bogy by 4 points. So I'm going to call it 4.5. Come out with a good performance. It is the playoffs. Games tend to be a little bit closer in the playoffs.
I like it.
Okay. Do you want to do the 4-5 or the 3-6 next?
Let's go with the 4-5. We'll go back up top.
Okay. This is another matchup from a couple weeks ago. It's the Werewolves and the halfway Crooks. That was beautiful line setting. We put it at 6.5, and I think it was a 8-point win, maybe, if I remember correctly. Or no, we put it at like 4.5, and it was
in favor of halfway, right?
No, in favor of the Werewolves.
Oh, in favor of the Werewolves.
I'm torn as to which way to go in this one.
This for me is a pick'em.
I think this one's a pick'em. It's going to be a defensive battle. We've got 2 players on either side of the court. We've got Brian Heston and Jeff Winchell. One of them got my defensive player of the year vote. I will not tell you who. But
I'll tell you mine if you say yours, because one of mine is in this game as well. My defensive player of the year is in this game.
Okay, mine is as well. So who's yours?
Mine is Brian Heston.
Mine is Jeff Winchell.
So here we go. We have differing opinions here, right?
Yeah, because we said that bit on the podcast last week about who our picks were, and then we kind of got into a little Twitter battle with not battle, more of a conversation with Jeff Winchell and Brian Heston. And then I was like, you know what? Let me like really dig deep into the numbers. And I looked at individual efficiencies. I was doing calculations I didn't even know existed. And I was like, you know what? He's forcing my hand here. I'm going to have to go with it. I know Joey was saying, don't tell everybody like your picks on the podcast, but it's like, it's who I voted for.
Fuck it.
I don't know if he's going to win or not.
No, no one's going to get mad. We tell it how it is. I think people know our opinions on this podcast. We say them enough. I picked Brian Heston for Defensive Player of the Year. You picked Jeff Winchell. That's just going to show essentially how good this of a defensive battle this is going to be.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to the key to the game is who's going to play the better defense. Because if the Werewolves play the better defense, then you're stopping guys like Jeff, like Jared, like Spence. And if the Crooks are playing better defense, you're stopping guys like Brian, like Gino. If Sam Clifford shows up, you're stopping him as well. And you're really kind of putting the ball in the hands of these Connor Harringtons, these Jared Ganserts, what's the other one's name? Joe Palazzo. And then for the Crooks, it's like, can Joey Zacco win you the game?
No.
But that's the point. If it's a defensive battle and you have to put it in the other people's hands,
can Spence Freeman win you the game?
And I don't know. That's why I'm going pick 'em here.
I think
I think this has the potential to be one of the better games of the whole playoffs, I think.
I agree.
And then
my ideal semifinals here is Duyer's Werewolves, because that's been the semifinals. That was the semifinals the year we won the championship, and it was an overtime game. It was a great game.
It was. I think it was a 3-point overtime game too. A game that featured Brian Yars on the Werewolves.
Correct. So I think it'd be a fun little game. That was the game after we tweeted Brian Yars in my jersey, and we said, "Oh
yeah, you crudely cropped his face over yours and was like, hey, what do you think about this?"
Yeah.
Love those memories.
No, that either way, it's going to be this is going to be a fantastic game. Probably the game I wish we could. What time is that game? Our game's at 9, so we can watch this game.
Yeah. So the 2 playing games are at 7. The 2 quarterfinal games that are decided already are at 8, and the 2 matchups of the 1 and 2 seed are at 9.
Right.
But moving to the other 8:00 game, it's another rematch of a game from a few weeks ago.
I think we throw the same bit here.
This is another one that it was an overtime game. It was one of the only regular season. I think it was the only regular season game to go to overtime.
Yeah.
And it's the Warriors and it's Sin City. This is another team where you were saying Ozone is better than the 7. I think Sin City is better than the 6. Realistically, I could see either of these teams at full strength going to the finals.
Yeah. Especially on the side of the bracket they're on.
Yeah, exactly. But I think I can't not favor the Warriors.
I can't not favor
few
Gian.
Weeks they've had. So I'm going to give them, I think it was an 8-point win in overtime for them. I'm going to give it 4.5.
Ooh, 3.5.
Okay. I'm going to give it 4.5.
Okay, fair. I like it.
Okay. Warriors 4.5. I think the key, because now we'll get to see, because they won't have Javon. Javon's not going to be there, so it's a little bit less of a presence. I think the key is, can Taj stop Gian again?
And can Devin Pena do his thing?
Exactly. Because Devin Pena hasn't been there in a week. We've only seen him have one bad game.
Yeah, Devon Pena.
Is he going to be a little bit
Devon Pena was who showed up against the Duyer's boys. Devin
Pena shows up every week, but Devon Pena showed up against the Duyer's boys.
Yeah, so that's why it's
Devin Pena's Wario.
Yes, yeah.
But yeah, I'm favoring the Warriors here, mainly because I'm really intrigued, and I hope it gets to this point. I really want to see a Lob Warriors semifinals, because that was a week 1 game that Lob won by, I believe, 50. They won that game by 50. And these are 2 very different teams than they were in week 1. We've seen that Lob, like, you know, the quote, like, if you can make God bleed, people cease to believe in him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, we already knew that Lob and Duyer's was a close matchup, and one of the good teams had to beat the other good team. But I think Ozone beating Lob was that, like, making them bleed moment. So I'd really love to see how the Warriors now match up against Lob, with Gian being as, like, full-fledged in the league. He's gotten his feathers. He's a peacock. You got to let him fly.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good game, and I favor the Warriors here, but whoever they get in the next round is going to be a great game too, regardless of if it's Ozone or Lob. So,
and then before we go, outside of the Duyer's boys, because I know how we stand on them, I want because we did this early in the podcast, like one of the first couple episodes, I want one of your picks for a contender and a pick for a sleeper.
All right. Well, I think Duyes is winning the whole thing. I know you don't want that. I'm going to come out and say it.
No, I know. I mean, I
you
think
went
the
50
same
50.
thing.
I know you went 50 50. Stop betting against us. It's just fueling our fire. We love hearing that people don't believe in us because that's what most of us have heard all our lives when it comes to sports. That's why everyone plays with a chip on their shoulder on the Duyes boys. So stop betting against us because that just only makes us play better. Actually, keep betting against us. I like it. No, contender. Who do I think can win the finals besides us? Is what you're asking.
Yes.
Give me the Rhode Island Warriors. My initial pick the beginning of the year was halfway. Give me the Rhode Island Warriors. Lock it in. I think we can still see them in the finals.
Yeah. For me, I'm trying to think. If it wasn't Duyes boys,
which it is,
I think it's the Werewolves.
Okay.
And as far as a sleeper goes,
I didn't give you my sleeper.
Yeah, well, I'll give you mine, then you give me yours. I feel bad calling them a sleeper because they are a very good team, but it's Sin City. I really like the way they play basketball, and I still think that even without Javon, they have a good chance to make a run.
If it just depends if Devin or Devon Pena shows up.
Yeah, that's the big thing, especially if they get Duyes boys in the finals. Should they get there, is Devin or Devon Pena going to show up?
Right. My sleeper is the 03 Gents from Cranston East, the Ozone boys. I think any team on the bottom half of the bracket besides the Bogy Kicks can get to the championship. It has a chance to make the championship a good game.
That bottom half of the bracket, that side with the 2 seed, is a very loaded side of the bracket, and that is I think any team has a chance, but it's definitely like you'd rather be on this side of the bracket, like with the Duyes boys. And I get it's like that's all by design. Like the 1 seed, you're technically supposed to have the easiest road, but I definitely think that the side of the bracket with the 1 side is a little bit easier of a road than the 2 seed side.
And that's not saying that the Werewolves and half of Crooks aren't good, because those are going to be very good games, but I just think that the bottom half of the bracket is much closer together in terms of any of these teams can win a game on any given night. Yeah, granted that can happen in the top, but it's tough. It's tough to view it that way. Like the Werewolves are really hot right now. So, you kind of think in your head that there's a pretty good chance that the Werewolves take this first game. They should. They're the higher seed. That should go chalk. And then, obviously the Werewolves can beat us, halfway can beat us, but the Duyes boys are 8-0. Right. So you have a tough time picking against them if you're betting. Right. And then you don't think that anybody in that playing game is really going to be able to make a run in the top half of the bracket. But in the fact that that there's a very real chance for a team in the playing game in the bottom half to make the finals is very scary. And that's why it's this tough half of the bracket.
Yeah, these Ozone boys this year, they're very reminiscent of a certain finals champion in the summer of 2019.
That's why they're my sleeper, because the year that we won the championship, we were a playing team. We were in the 8-9 matchup where only the Fam and Lincoln 18ers are, and we had to face the 1 seed in the second round. Not on the same night. That's the only difference.
Yeah, it was like a Sunday afternoon was the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah, and then we had to come back and play Tuesday night, but we won the championship in the play-in game slot. So for all those play-in game teams, yeah, I was right. For all those play-in game teams, anything for sure is possible if you believe in yourself enough. I think we are case in point of that. And we've only lost 1 game since then in the championship. So once you start believing in yourself, things change. Everyone in the post-game show talked about the Duyes boys' chemistry, right? And they said that's why they're so good. I think that's very evident, right? But we just believe in each other, and I think that's the difference that we possess, right? And that's why we might not be the best 8 guys all together, collectively, but once you start believing in your teammates, and we're all like very good friends, we've known each other for a long time. Once you start believing in yourselves and the guys around you, and if you believe the other 3 guys on the court with you can make it happen, and anything can happen when you're out there. So
yeah.
So
anything
take that
possible.
with a grain of salt. Take that life advice today, and
you just
do
need
you
need the Hogan brothers. I can't remember which one is Lizzie, but you just need them to say, "Hey now, this is what dreams are made of," and make that run. I know that was bad.
I liked it.
No, someone has to say it.
Someone has to say it. Danny, would you like to send us off with another one of your famous lines as the last game of the regular season?
All right. I'll close it out. That's been everything. It was a great regular season. We've got a great playoff slate to look forward to. This has been the Low Post Podcast. It's the Magic Man and El Diablo. It's PJ Thomas and Dan Ruggiero. Shake and bake, everybody.